Okay, and welcome to the third playthrough of Final Fantasy VII with Avalanche. We've just, obviously, previously we've just fought the boss, Airbuster, and as you'll know from the previous video, we've been separated from Tifa and from Barrett. Quick other recap, we've gone round the slums, we've had our first sort of interaction with shops, buying new materia. A lot's gone on in the last two episodes, and we've gone through a lot of the more basic stuff. So what we're now going to do is we're actually going to look at the introduction of the fourth party member. We've obviously been separated from Tifa and Barrett, but we are going to be meeting up with them again because we know they're alive. But Tifa and Barrett don't know that we're alive. So we've obviously met a new party member here. Now you might realise that this is actually the same party member that we met earlier, who was selling flowers. You'll notice that we're in a church that's growing flowers. Now this is sort of the main sort of protagonist of Disc 1. She's not the main character in the game, but the character in front of us is probably sort of the most important person of Disc 1. And if you'll notice, quite interestingly there, her eyes have a similar glow to what was mentioned in the previous part. That sort of bluey-greeny glow, as if she'd been exposed to Mako energy. Now, she hasn't been exposed to Mako energy, she's been exposed to something different, and that will sort of be revealed much later on, much later on. But it's important to understand that she does have that bluey-green sort of glow. Again, we've got another dialogue box here, whether you saw her or not. I would like to say that I have done to try and sort of be nice. You could say that she's the slum drunk, but obviously I remember she was selling flowers. Now, the dynamic over the next sort of 5 minutes is that we just talk to her and learn some more about herself. Cloud says that he has some materia. Now, Aeris has some materia which is good for absolutely nothing. You won't be able to see it, but it's actually hidden underneath the pink tail in her hair, and it was that pink bow tail was given to her by her previous boyfriend, who is still currently missing. We'll go into that in a bit more detail, actually, in this episode. Now, the materia that she has, though, that's quite important because it was her mother's. And we won't learn a lot about that, actually, in this entire disc, which is going to be, you know, hundreds of, well, not hundreds, but plenty of parts. Now, obviously, if you're wondering why it looks all a bit cluttered, that's because when we fell, the flower bed broke Cloud's fall. I'm not quite sure how a flower bed can break someone's fall from a reactor that's probably a mile or so above. Now, if you have a look here, her name is down as Aeris. I'm going to change this for the Puritan's sake. I briefly went over on the first part that Aerith is the actual original character's name, which then got mistranslated when we translated to US as Aeris or Aerisu. So I'm going to change it to Aerith because I want to be sort of more proper, if you like. Now, I'm going to fade out here just to save a couple of minutes on the video time. Essentially, what happens over the next 2 or 3 minutes is just plenty of dialogue. There's not a lot of choices you can make, so I'm just going to let that fade out. After 2 minutes of dialogue, we get into sort of a mini confrontation with a chap who was in the church. Quick drink there, and we realise that clearly we have some more members of the Shinra. And this chap is alluded to be called Reno. Now, we have a choice here, and because there's no save point, I won't be able to show you both choices. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to speak both choices. The reason why I don't want to sort of go through both choices is because I'd like to sort of get more experience with the battles. You're going to have a quick laugh here when you realise that the leader of this group has said not to tread on the flowers, and he has. So we're going to come over here, jump across, and go up. Now, the problem we have here is that in a second we're going to get shot at, and Aeris is going to fall down this very conveniently placed sort of tower, if you like, that was holding up the church. She doesn't seem too keen on jumping. Now, in interestingly enough, she's just said the ancient. That refers to the colour in her eyes. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. Probably near the end of Midgar, sort of about part 6, part 7 time. Now, she's asking for help, and she's not sure what to do. Now, if she says, you've got a choice here of hold on a minute, fight them, or run. So if you click hold on a minute, you're on your own, obviously. Now, Aerith doesn't have anything equipped. Now, you could have equipped something to her, so I'm going to quickly show you what to do here. You have a choice whether you can push certain barrels over. Now, if I go over to this barrel here, it gives you a choice to push a barrel over. Now, obviously, this isn't going to do anything. It's just going to roll down there. Obviously, nothing's going to happen. If you push barrels in the correct order, they will knock over and incapacitate the enemies. So obviously I'm going to fight a battle here that I won't have any sort of equipment for, because I haven't chosen to equip Aeris. But it's not a tricky battle. You know, I mean, these guys do 4 damage, and they have about, 60 or 70 life. On my game, they'll obviously be slightly different, because I've obviously equipped some modifications, which will make them slightly stronger. On your game, you'll find that machine gun attack nearly always does 1 damage. Clearly here it doesn't make much difference, because we're still going to win the fight. There we go, 50 hit points and they're dead. So we'll get some experience and some AP. The AP won't count though, because we don't have any materia equipped. Now what you'll see is while we're up here, Aeris will be moving, and while she's moving, we obviously have to encounter battles as well. I'm just going to fade out of this battle just to save a bit of time. And obviously after we've finished this battle, we will get into a situation where Aeris will want help again. There'll be a few dialogue screens, as you can see here. Now, if you actually tell her to run, she'll opt to run away if she's able to. Now, as you can see here, there's nothing standing in her way, so she's able to run away, and she'll join up with us. Now, there is an option actually to have up to 3 fights, but I'm just in a rush, and I don't really want to be honest, so we're going to speed up out of here, and then we're going to take Aeris home. So the way to do that is you go up to here, run along here, and then you do 2 jumps, and Aeris will follow. The game's mechanics aren't obviously what they should be, but it's an early game. Now we're going to get a little bit of dialogue here, basically telling you about why these people are after you. They're called the Turks, as Reno. Now, what's interesting is that both these two have the same colour eyes, so the first instinct that Cloud has is that they think that they're scouting for Aeris to be a soldier. Obviously, Cloud will have seen Aeris battling. If you think about the theoretical story behind it, Aeris will have some battles in that church against, weak sort of enforcers, if you like, working for the Turks. So Cloud thinks that Aeris is potentially being scouted as a candidate for soldier. And obviously now Aeris is saying there's a lot of other dirty stuff that's been involved with. Now, the thing that's interesting here is that Aeris is looking down. When they made this game, they actually had her in the beta looking up, but they had her looking down so as to give the impression that she's trying to hide something. I mean, if you can tell by the tone that she's saying, she's sort of saying, oh no, not really, I think they have what it takes. She's trying to deviate from the true reason why she has these colour eyes, because obviously Cloud's realised this. So now they're going to get on, and they're going to get home. Now, one of the main problems is that her plan to sort of hide things has immediately come a cropper, because she's already running out of breath. So, quite an interesting point this is. Why is she running out of breath? If she's meant to be a candidate for soldier, like Cloud was, strong and resilient and able to take intense battles. Now, Aeris is sort of playing along here as if to say, oh, well, we'll have a laugh, and the shoulders pumping to sort of signify having a laugh. So they're obviously talking about that. Cloud sort of half knows that her eyes have a tinge, but she wants to know how you know about it. And she's obviously going nothing. She's trying to hint that she doesn't know anything about this. Now the thing is, there's sort of a double-edged sword here, because the perception is that she thinks that Cloud believes she knows more than she's letting on. But the thing is, she doesn't actually know why she has the colour in her eyes. Not truly. But what she does know is why Cloud has the colour in his eyes, which we'll find out, like I said, just at the end of this video. So, what we're going to do before we continue is we're going to just equip Aeris with some materia. Now, you'll notice there's a lot of materia here that's been taken off. That is from Tifa and Barrett. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at Aeris, who's got a guard stick and a bronze bangle. I'm going to equip the Titan bangle that we found, which obviously gives us more defense, more magic defense, but also more defense percentage. That basically ups the percentage of a attack missing completely. So we'll equip that, and then we're going to put 3 pieces of materia on. So we'll put a restore, an ice, and a fire. Whichever pieces you put on are up to you. Also, we're going to put Aeris in the back row. Now that won't be like Barrett, who gets no attack penalty, so she will get an attack penalty. The reason why is because if you have a look at the status bar here, and you flip to Aeris, her strength statistic is one of the lowest in the game, as well as her luck and dexterity statistics. If you have a look there 18, look there 17, a bit lower, and the dexterity is a couple lower as well. In other words, Aeris is very weak. Now she offsets that by being really strong in magic. If you have a look, the spirit stat, now spirit is sort of your magic affluence, how well you are with varying types of magic. You'll notice that that's 26, Cloud's is 22, and Aeris is 4 levels lower. And also if you have a look at magic attack, Aeris has only got 4 less on magic attack, and she's got more magic defense, and she's still a lot weaker. So you can clearly tell that Aeris is a magic user, a white mage if you will, or a black mage. Now if we go along here, this will actually take us to where we need to go. We just need to go up here, and this takes us sort of into the sort of yard of the area. There's a shop here. I'm not going to go through too much of this area now, so we're going to go straight to Aeris' mum. Now before we go into Aeris' house, I'll just show you the menu to signify it as Aerith's house. We're just going to quickly look around the garden because there's a couple of items in there. There's a piece of materia, which is quite handy. It's called cover, and also it's a new colour, and an ether. Now, just before going into Aeris' house, I'm going to give you a quick materia tutorial on the next type of colour of materia. So far, we've only encountered one real colour, which is green. There's also all there. Now, before I go on to talk about cover, let's talk about all. All effects on paired magic. Essentially, what this does is it gives us that all spell. It allows us to do lightning all, but it says on paired magic. Now, if you have a look at Aeris' Titan bangle, it has the same amount of slots, but there's no little link between the two. So if you put an all materia in one of those, it wouldn't be paired. So you need to have the all in this little pair slot here. That's essentially what that does. Now that colour materia, that sort of light blue, is often known as support materia, and the reason why is because it supports the thing it's linked to. So green materia is magic materia, and that is known as support materia, the light blue. So you've got green, light blue. There's 2 other colours, yellow and red, which we'll talk about later, and we've also got something called independent materia, which is this purple one here. This means it can be equipped on its own. Now you might think, well, hang on, the green materia can be equipped on its own. That's correct. But the green materia gives you something. It gives you a magic spell to cast. This purple materia doesn't actually give you any physical thing you can do. What it does is it gives you an inherent ability which you then cannot click on. It does automatically. So here, if you have a look, it says cover plus 20%. As you level it up, that 20% will increase up to 100%. So 20% of the time, when whoever is attacked in your party, the person who has the cover materia will attempt to take the damage for them, step in the way, if you will. Also, when they equip it, their vitality statistic goes up by 1 point. That's essentially what cover does. Now, at the moment, I don't really want to equip it because I've got other materias I'd rather level up. I'm only going to equip cover when I haven't got anything else to equip. So, we're going to go in and have a quick chat with Aeris' mum. Now, obviously, Elmira, who is Aerith's mum, Elmira Gainsborough, for those of you who are looking for the full name, and Aerith Gainsborough, you're looking to sort of build up a knowledge of the storyline. So, we've learned a bit more about Cloud the bodyguard, Elmira saying thank you. Now, there's a bit more dialogue here. I'm just going to let this next bit play because he wants to go back to Sector 7. Now, obviously, he doesn't know where he is at the moment. All he knows is that he's in some sort of church, and he knows that he actually is in Sector 5. Now, the thing about Cloud is that he's not been in Midgar for very long, so he doesn't know too much about the sectors, which is why he's asking. Obviously, he's alluding to Tifa being a girlfriend. You get the choice, so I'm going to say yes, because I really like Tifa. So Aerith obviously commenting, saying that's nice. Now she's offering to show you to Sector 7. Now the thing is, we're obviously a bit away from Sector 7. Cloud here being his usual chauvinistic attitude. But essentially, what he's going to say is how to get to Sector 7. Now, Elmira's not very happy with her going to Sector 7, but she realises she's quite a sort of a strong-willed daughter. Now, I'm going to fade out here in a second, and then we're going to come back in when we've got a dialogue. So, we just need to go upstairs, obviously, and then Aerith's going to tell us we need to go through Sector 6 to get to Sector 7. The sectors are numbered in order, as was alluded to by Jessie on the train a while ago. She's saying, obviously, Sector 6 is dangerous, you need to get some rest tonight. So, there's a way to get some rest here. And then Aerith saying good night. So, obviously, now the plan is to get a bit of sleep. So here we have a bit of a challenge. We need to get out of the house without letting Aerith know we're leaving, because obviously Cloud's quite chauvinistic. He wants to leave without telling her. And again, more harking back to the past. A nice bed. We don't yet know where this is, and we don't yet need to know where this is. But we've got some person telling Cloud that the girls never leave him alone. Now, you can tell from the clothing and the way she's talking that it's Cloud's mum, and she'll allude to that in a second. Now, these flashbacks, Cloud will have more and more of them as the story progresses, and these flashbacks almost work in canon with the original story, because what you're going to realise is that for every step forward we take and learn more about the story, we also need to take a step back and learn about Cloud's past. Obviously he's saying that he should be alright by himself. If you have a look, there's an item there, a potion and a phoenix down. And now if we run, I'll just do it now, it makes a noise, the game stops and Aerith comes out and says, what are you doing? And she says, you've got to go back and get some sleep. And the game simply resets to where it was 5 seconds ago. You get the same link, and the same thing needs to happen. So what we're going to do now is we're going to walk out the house and go back to the area we just came through. Obviously, if we go through the door, it'll alert Aerith again. So we don't really need to change anything here. We just simply walk down the stairs here, and we go out. We can run now. Now, when we go back to the market, which we were in a second ago, there's a few shops to go around. Some of the shops actually sell some new armour. They don't sell any new weapons, but they sell Titan bangles, which we just got one of. We're going to buy some more of those so we can equip them onto people. There's also a few more things to do around here, but we're not going to do them yet, and for a very specific reason. There's a chance in this house, I'll just quickly show you, to steal some money. Now, the game's quite clever here. You have a chance to steal some money here from this little chap, saying it's not the top one, it's not the bottom one. Now, if you go here, open the hidden drawer between them. Now, if you leave this 5 gil, you later on get a chance to get some other stuff. There's also a letter on here from Turtle Paradise. This won't mean anything to you at the moment, but essentially you've actually just started a sub-quest. If you find all 6 newsletters, you get a load of free items. So we found one here. There is another one in Midgar, but we won't find it till the end of the game. Now, there's a lot more to do and explore around here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to fade out, do a bit of shopping, and then we'll show you what happens when we continue with the story. And as we come out here, we find that Aerith's magically waiting for us, even though we left her in the house. I'm not quite sure how the game allows us to do that, but nevertheless, it's happened. So she's saying you have to go through the slum in Sector 6 to get to 7th Heaven. And Aerith's ran along. So we're in Sector 5 slums, we need to go through Sector 6 slums first. So there's a little bit of an area. This is actually where we can get to some battles, so we're just going to double check that we have got all our materia equipped. Yep, that's all fine, because we can get into some fights here, as we have just got in one now. I'll let this first one play through, and then any future fights I will skip to try and make the video a bit quicker. It is worth noting that the all spell here is really useful with Cloud. Now, if Cloud gets low on magic, you can try and move the all spell to Aerith, but the problem is that Aerith doesn't have any linked armor or linked items, so you have to leave it on Cloud. So what I would recommend is after you've used the linked spell with Cloud, don't use it again. just a second ago, you'll have also seen that Cloud took some damage for Aerith. The reason why that happened is because he had the cover materia equipped. I've re-equipped that to Cloud. You'll also notice that we're actually quite low on life already. We're down to, they're doing 20 damage a hit, and they're attacking quite fast. This is because the reasonable mod that I've got equipped gives all the enemies the effect of half a haste. Now, haste, like in most Final Fantasy games, is a spell which will speed up your attacks. In Final Fantasy VII, it gives you 30% faster attacks. So what the enemies have is they have 15% faster attacks. 15% quicker, their relative time gauge increases. So, it makes it harder for me. Also, the enemies will attack harder and think better. They'll attack the same person frequently to try and tactically kill them. In other words, the enemies are just harder full stop, as well as the bosses. This is one of the reasons why I like this game now, because I found it quite easy, obviously, when you've cleared the game hundreds of times. I'm just going to get into one more battle round here. I'm going to show you a new limit break. Obviously, you've seen Big Shot from Barret, which is a physical attack, as well as Brava from Cloud. Aerith, though, you know we said earlier she was a white mage. Her limit break is also like a white mage limit break. So if you have a look here, it's called Healing Wind. Now, if you press select, it restores HP to all allies. And then I'm going to cast Bolt. Now, this is like casting Cure on everyone. It's not as strong. It'll only heal for about 180 to 200 damage at the level she's at the moment. Obviously, to make that Healing Wind heal more, Aerith needs to not only be stronger, but also have a better magic statistic. So I'm also going to cast the spell Cure on Cloud, because he's quite low on life, and then cast Brava afterwards. Now, it's important to keep using your limit breaks and make sure you keep training players up, because if you just train up as little as possible, you'll find that when it comes to the hard battles, you'll struggle. It's more prudent for me, because obviously I'm playing on a game which is a lot harder, because I've decided to make it a lot harder. So I'm just casting bolt spells and fire spells. Once this enemy casts Suicide Drop, it then sort of becomes easier to kill. There's no damage that appears on the screen, but the enemy can't be killed before that. And there we go, the enemy's down. On my version of the modification as well, the enemies give me slightly more experience in AP. So if you're noticing that my numbers are different to yours, don't worry too much. That's normal. The reasoning behind it is that I need to level up quicker. Now, we're going to get into a little playground now and have a quick break. Even though we've only gone through one square, we need a break. So, we've either got the choice to take her home or go on to Sector 7. So I'm going to opt to take her home to try and sound nice. But she won't have any of it. Now, we're going to learn a little bit more about the story here. We can see a little playground, and there's a gate in front of us to get to Sector 7. And you'll notice as well that there's something behind that gate which is not letting us in. We don't really need to worry too much about that yet, but when we speak to Aerith here, she'll let us get on top. So we've got a choice to sit next to her on the top of the big slide. Now, we're going to learn a bit about some of Aerith's sort of past here. It basically talks about the existence of her boyfriend, and you'll find out that she used to be in Soldier, so her boyfriend. That's the reason why she was talking about it so much. That quick flash there is for Cloud remembering the flashback. Now, we won't talk too much about that yet to not give too much away, but those flashbacks will start helping Cloud piece together, because all is not what it seems. You know, there are bits and pieces that are floating around Cloud's sort of mind that aren't fitting together for him, and as the game goes on, that will get more complicated. The same as Aerith's first boyfriend. Now, this is one of the areas of the game which I will need to give a slight spoiler to show that obviously I am quite interested in the game, but Aerith's boyfriend was known as Zack Fair. Now, the game was very clever here. It opted not to tell Cloud, and I'm not going to say why that's the case, but she couldn't tell Cloud because it would spoil something of the game. Obviously, we've got a Chocobo drawn carriage there, and they're drawing away a Tifa who's very smartly dressed up in a nice dress. Just a quick drink. Now, Aerith obviously wants to find out more about what's happening with Tifa. Cloud wants to find out more about Aerith's boyfriend, because obviously he was in Soldier, first class. Soldier had various classes. Third class meant that you were sort of a basic commander. Second class meant you were a bit stronger, and then you had first class. Now, we're about to reach a very large area here, known as Wall Market, and this is where we're going to finish this video up for the time being, and then we're going to look to expand on it. Basically, Wall Market is an area where there's been doing no battling, but there's going to be lots of item trading. In the next episode, what you're going to see is one of the permutations of what happens in Wall Market. I'm actually going to split it into two. I'm going to split it into the way just to get in, and then the way to get in the best way. Now, this is one of the beauties about RPGs. There's so many different ways of sort of solving them. So that's the end of this video. In the next video, as I said, you can find out the first part of Wall Market, what we're going to do, and what has happened to Tifa, and why is Ares so interested.